Get this trash out of here. A billionaire CEO mocked the single dad janitor's car, then begged him. Opening scene, morning rush. The city woke up like it always did, loud, hurried, indifferent. Engines roared, horns blared, and people rushed past one another without a glance. But amidst the blur of suits and ties, an old, dented 1998 Toyota Corolla pulled into the employee parking lot of Summit Industries, one of the most powerful tech corporations in the country. Inside that car sat Ethan Cole, a 36-year-old single dad. His knuckles were rough, his eyes tired, the kind of tired that came from years of working nights, not just from lack of sleep, but from carrying too much weight alone. He parked in the farthest corner, as always. Not because he had to, but because he didn't want anyone to see the rust spots or the cracked bumper that held together with duct tape and hope. Ethan worked as a janitor at Summit. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. And it paid just enough to keep a roof over his daughter Lily's head and food in the fridge most days. Lily was 8, curious, bright, and always asking her dad why he smiled even when things were hard. He'd always tell her, because life's easier when you carry light in your heart, kiddo. That morning, as Ethan grabbed his cleaning cart and headed toward the glass doors, he didn't notice the sleek black Bentley pulling in behind him, a car so spotless it reflected the sky like a mirror. The door opened, and out stepped Damian Hartwell, the 32-year-old billionaire CEO of Summit Industries. Perfect hair, custom Italian suit, and a reputation colder than the building's marble floors. Damian noticed Ethan's Corolla and frowned as if the old car offended him. "Whose trash heap is that?" he muttered to his assistant. When the assistant hesitated, Damian's voice rose, sharp and cutting. "I said get that junk out of here. It's ruining the company's image." Ethan turned, startled, mop in hand. His eyes met Damian's calm, apologetic, but unwavering. "Sir, that's my car," he said quietly. "It still runs fine. I'll move it if you want." Damian looked him up and down. A janitor, in a faded uniform, speaking politely as if he owed the world an apology. "Then do it," Damian sneered. "We don't park garbage beside progress." The word stung. Ethan nodded without a word, pushing his cart aside and getting back in his car. He drove it around to a gravel lot across the street where the employees from subcontractors parked. He sat there for a moment, staring at the steering wheel. He could feel the heat behind his eyes, but he refused to let a tear fall. He took a deep breath, whispered, "Not today," and went back to work. Scene 2, the pressure builds. Days turned into weeks. Ethan became invisible again, mopping floors, fixing leaks, wiping fingerprints off the glass doors that led to Damian's office. But something had changed. Whispers spread among staff about the incident, the CEO mocking the janitor's car. Some laughed. Others shook their heads in quiet shame. But no one spoke up because everyone feared Damian's temper. The CEO wasn't always cruel, though. Once upon a time, he was known for his innovation, his passion for building things that changed lives. But success had twisted something inside him. He stopped seeing people as people; they were either tools or obstacles. Ethan, meanwhile, just kept working. He arrived early, left late, and never complained. When co-workers mocked him, he smiled. When others passed him without a glance, he still greeted them kindly. Every Friday night, he'd pick up Lily from school, and they'd go for ice cream. It was their ritual, the one thing that made the week feel worth it. She'd always ask him about his day, and he'd always tell her, it was good. Hard work never hurts anyone. But behind that smile, the bills piled up. The rent was late again. Lily's school had a field trip he couldn't afford. Still, he kept going because quitting wasn't an option. Scene 3, The Storm. One Thursday evening, the city was drenched in rain. The sky roared, and lightning danced across the horizon. Ethan stayed late that night, cleaning up after a company gala. The CEO and his investors had celebrated another record-breaking $250 million deal. Damien had been there, charming, confident, the center of every conversation. But when the lights dimmed and the guests left, Ethan was the one who cleaned the champagne stains from the marble floor. As Ethan wheeled his mop bucket past the empty boardroom, he noticed something odd. A briefcase left behind, lying open near a chair. Inside were contracts, a silver pen, and a small velvet box. He froze when he saw what was inside the box: a diamond ring. It looked expensive. Far beyond anything he'd ever held. Ethan closed the briefcase, locked it, and went straight to security. He handed it over, saying simply, "This belongs to Mr. Hartwell." When Damien returned the next morning, furious about the missing case, security told him what happened. For the first time, Damien was quiet. He didn't call Ethan to his office, didn't thank him. But the next time he saw him in the hallway, there was something different in his eyes, a flicker of respect. Quickly hidden, but there. Scene 4, Collapse. 2 months later, the company hit a crisis. A major system crash caused a data breach, and Damien's biggest investors threatened to pull out. The board demanded answers, and the CEO, the man who had mocked others for weakness, found himself drowning. At home, things weren't better. Ethan's daughter had been diagnosed with a respiratory condition, and her treatment wasn't covered by insurance. He picked up extra night shifts, sleeping 2 hours a day, still smiling when he dropped Lily off at school. One morning, as he dragged his cleaning cart through the lobby, he saw Damien sitting alone in his office, his head in his hands. The man looked human. Tired. Defeated. Ethan hesitated, then knocked gently on the glass. Damien looked up, startled. "Sir," Ethan said softly, "you left the lights on in the conference room. Thought you might want them off to save power." Damien stared at him for a long moment, then actually chuckled. "Save power? A janitor teaching a billionaire about efficiency. That's rich." Ethan smiled faintly. Sometimes the little things help the most. He turned to leave, but Damien called out, "Wait." The CEO leaned back, sighing. "You ever feel like no matter how much you build, it's never enough?" Ethan nodded slowly. "Every day. But my daughter reminds me that what matters most isn't what we build, it's who we build it for." Something in Damien's expression cracked. He didn't respond, but he didn't mock either. Scene 5, The Fire. A week later, disaster struck. Late at night, an electrical fault in the server room triggered a small explosion. Smoke filled the lower floors, alarms blared, and chaos erupted. Damien had stayed late again, trying to fix the crisis with his team. When the fire broke out, most people evacuated immediately, but someone shouted that the CEO was still inside. Without hesitation, Ethan ran back in. He didn't think. He didn't plan. He just ran through smoke, heat, and panic until he found Damien half collapsed near the server racks. "Come on!" Ethan shouted, dragging him toward the exit. The ceiling groaned, sparks rained down, and fire licked at the walls. Damien coughed violently, his perfect suit torn and covered in soot. Outside, when the fire trucks finally arrived, Damien looked up at Ethan wheezing, trembling. You came back for me," he rasped. Ethan just smiled faintly. "You're human like the rest of us." Then he collapsed. Scene 6, Redemption. Ethan woke up in a hospital bed 2 days later. His hands were burned, lungs scorched from smoke. Lily was asleep by his side, holding his arm. A nurse whispered that someone had been there every night since the fire. When Ethan turned his head, he saw Damien sitting quietly in the corner, his face pale, eyes hollow. The CEO stood slowly. "I owe you my life," he said hoarsely. Ethan shook his head weakly. "You don't owe me anything, sir. Just, be kind to people. That's enough." But Damien couldn't shake the guilt. He mocked this man. Called his car trash. Laughed at the one person who embodied the humanity he lost. Scene 7, a year later. Time passed. Ethan recovered, though he could no longer work full shifts. Lily's health improved thanks to an anonymous donor who paid for her full treatment. He never knew who it was, but he had a feeling. Then, one morning, he got a letter in the mail. It was on Summit Industries' letterhead. Inside, a simple message: "Dear Ethan, you once saved what I thought mattered most, my company. Then you saved what actually mattered, my life. I've realized the world doesn't need more billionaires, it needs more men like you. Please accept this not as charity, but as a partnership. Welcome to Summit Facilities Co., a new division built in your name. Damien Hartwell." Ethan read the letter 3 times before it sank in. He looked out at his old car in the driveway, still running, still loyal, and smiled. He whispered to Lily, "Looks like your old man's moving up in the world." Lily grinned. "You deserve it, Daddy." And for the first time in years, Ethan let himself believe it. Closing narration. Narrator VO, sometimes, it takes losing everything to see what truly matters. A billionaire learned that wealth means nothing without humanity. And a janitor proved that dignity isn't measured by the car you drive, but by the heart that drives you forward. Because kindness, it's the only thing that multiplies when you give it away.